In July 2025, Jeremy Corbyn and Zarah Sultana unveiled a new political project, Your Party. It was presented as a bold grassroots alternative to Labour, aimed at uniting the disillusioned left and building a mass membership movement. The ambition was sweeping: to tackle inequality, end homelessness, invest in public services, and put power back into the hands of ordinary people. For many, it sounded like a revival of the optimism that had once surrounded Corbyn's Labour. And the response, at least on the surface level, was extraordinary. Within just 5 hours of the launch, more than 80,000 people had signed up. Within the first week, that number had risen to 600,000. By the end of August, the total stood at over 800,000 sign-ups, making it appear to be one of the fastest growing political movements in modern British history. The headlines were dramatic, the rhetoric inspiring, but the real question is this: was this truly the birth of a political revolution, or was it no more than a mailing list inflated into fantasy? On the surface, the numbers behind Your Party looked historic. By late August 2025, the movement claimed more than 800,000 sign-ups. That figure would make it larger than almost every established party in Britain. But here is the crucial detail. These were not members in any meaningful political sense. They were not dues-paying supporters, not active volunteers, not people voting in internal elections. They were simply names and email addresses collected through a website. In practice, signing up to Your Party required no more commitment than subscribing to a newsletter. Contrast this with real party memberships. Reform UK reported around 237,000 structured members in the same period. Individuals paying regular fees integrated into the party's governance. Even the Green Party had just over 75,000 paying members by mid-September 2025. Those numbers are smaller, but they represent a much higher level of engagement and financial commitment than the hundreds of thousands on Your Party's mailing list. And this is not just semantics. Political science makes the distinction clear. Organisational strength is not measured in email sign-ups. It is measured in financial contributions, in structured memberships, and in the ability to mobilise people on the ground. By that criteria, Your Party's supposed revolution was, from the very beginning, an inflated statistic. Impressive at first glance, but hollow once examined. Beyond the inflated membership figures, Your Party's downfall lay in the promises themselves. Their platform was a collection of sweeping declarations pitched as if political realities could simply be wished away. They pledged to end homelessness outright, yet the UK government already spends over 1.6 billion annually on homelessness prevention and support, and the problem persists. Research from the National Audit Office shows that homelessness is driven by structural issues: housing supply, welfare policy, and the local authority budget. To eradicate it, it would require decades of sustained housing reform and tens of billions in capital investment. A newly formed movement with no governing power was never in a position to deliver that outcome. They promised to nationalise utilities like energy and water. The Office for Budget Responsibility has estimated the cost of such buyouts in the tens of billions of pounds, depending on compensation to shareholders. Even if executed, experts warn that nationalisation alone does not guarantee lower bills or better service. Regulation, infrastructure, renewal, and efficiency are the real determinants. They propose to abolish university tuition fees, but tuition brings in over £20 billion per year to UK universities. Removing that revenue would either bankrupt institutions or force the state to provide an equivalent subsidy. Without outlining a funding mechanism, this was less of a policy and more of a slogan. And throughout, they suggested they would somehow outgrow Reform UK and position themselves as Britain's next mass movement. But Reform's 237,000 paying members are embedded in a national organisation with electoral experience and financial stability. Your party had nothing comparable. The pattern is clear. These were not carefully costed deliverable programmes. These were maximalist promises detached from economic and institutional reality. The gap between aspiration and practicality was vast. They were promising national transformations with the tools that could not possibly achieve it. Yet, even if their policies had been credible, your parties demonstrated within weeks it lacked the organisational discipline to function as a serious political party. In September 2025, Zarah Sultana announced a new membership scheme, charging £55 per year. Her team claims that more than 22,000 people registered through the portal. In theory, this could have raised just over £1.2 million annually. Still nothing by national standards, but at least a step towards building a real organisation. But within hours of this announcement, the project had descended into open civil war.
Which is going to be Jeremy Corbyn's party. It's fallen apart it's basically crashed on takeoff. What's going on? So that the party's supporters got an email offering £55 memberships.
Yes.
Corbyn then goes ballistic. So he then puts out this message. An unauthorised email was sent to your party supporters with details of a supposed membership portal. The email should be ignored by all supporters and they should be immediately cancelled. Isn't that nuts? I mean, the Zarah Sultana then comes back in with she's furious as well. Corbyn says don't send it, it's unauthorised. And she says this party is now a sexist, there it is, a sexist boys club, which is devastating. I suppose if you...
Jeremy Corbyn's faction declared the portal unauthorised, urged supporters to cancel direct debits, and even referred the scheme to the Information Commissioner's Office over data and financial concerns. What should have been the foundation of the party structure became a public display of disunity and distrust. The fallout escalated quickly. Accusations of sexism from Sultana's allies, counter-accusations of reckless behaviour and legal threats that were issued and then withdrawn days later. All of this took place just 2 months after the party's launch. For a movement that claimed it could govern the country, this was a devastating demonstration of immaturity. Political organisations succeed when they can enforce rules, protect legitimacy, and resolve disputes internally. Your party could not even control its own membership process. The episode revealed that far from being a disciplined alternative to Labour, the movement was riven with factionalism before it had even begun to contest elections. The collapse of your party is not an isolated incident. It reflects a broader pattern that has defined the radical left in Britain for decades. An ability to mobilise excitement, but a constant failure to translate that energy into credible, sustainable politics. We saw it under Jeremy Corbyn's Labour. Membership surged to more than 500,000, rallies drew tens of thousands, and the 2017 election produced a momentary breakthrough. Yet, the movement quickly fractured over internal disputes, anti-Semitism controversies, and its incoherent position on Brexit. The promise of transformation collapsed into one of the worst defeats Labour has suffered in modern history. Your party repeated the same mistakes, but on a smaller scale, but at a faster pace. Inflated membership claims without genuine commitment, maximalist promised without costed policies, and a leadership divisions that spiralled into public spectacle. These are not signs of a government in waiting, they are hallmarks of a movement more concerned with slogans than with solutions. Ultimately, political parties succeed not through rhetoric, but through institutions, discipline, and credibility. Without those foundations, enthusiasm burns brightly for a moment, but then disappears. Your party promised to rewrite the future of British politics, and what it really demonstrated was that the radical left remains unrealistic, unstable, and fundamentally unfit to govern. By the end of September 2025, your party had achieved something unprecedented in modern British politics. It collapsed before it had even formally been established. They claimed to be the fastest growing movement in Britain, but their numbers were inflated email sign-ups. They promised to end homelessness, nationalise utilities, and abolish tuition fees, but offered no workable plan for how any of it could be delivered. They tried to build a membership system and within days were denouncing each other, threatening legal action, and referring disputes to regulators. In the space of just 3 months, your party went from bold declarations of national transformation to a public case study in organisational failure. The contradiction could not have been starker. A movement that claimed it could govern a country could not even govern itself. And that is the lasting lesson. The radical left does not fail because its rhetoric is uninspiring. It fails because its promises are unrealistic, its structures are chaotic, and its leadership cannot withstand scrutiny. Your party was never on the verge of reshaping Britain. It was the latest reminder that the modern left is unserious, over-promising, and fundamentally unfit for power. My name's Jaden Palmer, and I'll see you next week. And we're down we go,